Laurent is with us in studio telling me it is apparently the smelliest fruit in the world, like rotten eggs and smelly socks, according to our press reviewer.
So I've been told.
Laurent, of course, you're with us to take a look through the international papers. One of them on the front page there that is standing out, I have to say, is an investigation revealing millions of faulty medical implants.
That's right, Eve. We're talking about pacemakers, breast implants, contraceptives, artificial hips, catheters, wheelchairs, beds, all sorts of medical devices causing injuries, follow-up operations, in some cases, even death. It's the findings of an investigation conducted by around 250 journalists around the world, including reporters at Le Monde newspaper. We're talking here about nearly 5.5 million incidents in the past decade, 82,000 deaths, 1.7 million injuries, 3.6 million defects in these implants, a scale so big that Le Monde is calling it a world health scandal. Now, The Guardian says poor regulation, lax rules on testing and a lack of transparency are to blame. In some cases, for instance, replacement hips and vaginal mesh products were sold to hospitals without even having gone through a clinical trial beforehand. In other cases, manufacturers knew, for instance, that pacemakers were faulty when they were given to patients.
Horrific and frightening reading there, Diptyka. Let's move on to Taiwan. The ruling pro-independence DPP party has suffered a crushing defeat in local elections there.
Prime Minister Tsai Ing-wen and her pro-independence party have lost big at these local elections on the weekend. In one particular stronghold of Kaohsiung, the party lost their seat to Han Kuo-yu, a candidate who ran as an outsider for the KMT party. Now, that's a party that's seen as being rather sympathetic to China, favoring closer ties with China in case. He ran with no money nor resources, just on a really good social media campaign. Elsewhere on the island, the KMT party doubled its political control on the island in what they're calling a crushing blow to the ruling pro-independence party.
And what is the Taiwanese press making of all of that?
Well, the Taipei Times explains that pension and labor reforms as well as a lackluster economy are to blame, Eve. It was also very much a protest vote. Young people, the paper says, identifying as Taiwanese, not Chinese, nonetheless voted for the KMT party, the one that's sympathetic to China, because it was a vote of change. They wanted to send a very strong message to the ruling party. Now, for this writer from CNBC, the midterms in Taiwan were really a litmus test of what's to come, how strong that China party is ahead of 2020 elections, national elections in Taiwan. China, vying for greater influence, will no doubt take credit for these elections, CNBC says, and try and build momentum ahead of those 2020 elections. Now, on the side note, dozens of academics and human rights activists in New Zealand have penned an open letter to Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, urging her to protect the safety of an academic specializing in Chinese politics. Anne-Marie Brady says she's faced harassment and a string of burglaries after releasing a paper on Chinese foreign influence last year.
Oh, that's an intriguing one. Meanwhile, Diptyka, back here in France, entering the third week of yellow vest protests, as they've been dubbed. It comes after a week where a lot of those demonstrations turned violent and a lot of reactions to that in the French papers.
That's right. The Gilets jaunes, the yellow vest movement, blocked ring roads, smashed parts of the Champs-Élysées, set fires this weekend. Their demonstration, initially to oppose fuel hikes, has really widened to general discontentment with Emmanuel Macron and his ruling. The arm wrestle continues. That's what Le Figaro says here, going with a very striking picture that I've actually seen shared on social media this weekend as well. Emmanuel Macron is set to outline tomorrow how he intends to break the deadlock, end those protests, reconcile with dialogue. That's what La Croix, the Catholic paper, says, hoping that Macron's comments tomorrow will reduce this chasm between the protesters and the government.
But they have got international attention, those protests.
That's right. We've looked at the front page of the Austrian paper Der Standard, which is featuring a picture of the Champs-Élysées in ruins on its front page. Macron faces off against the yellow vests, this paper says, going with that very evocative picture. The Times, the British daily paper, The Times here in an opinion piece says the French government didn't see it coming, and now they're at a loss at how to stop this campaign that has so many disparate demands and no clear leader. Macron also faces a dilemma as a leader here. If he backs down, he'd be compared to, I quote, the man he least wanted to resemble François Hollande, who represents everything Macron does not want to be, quote, spineless, zigzagging, and so unpopular in the end that he couldn't even stand for re-election.
Okay, finally, then from you for now, Diptyque, the Miss France competition has revealed, the organisers of it rather, have revealed questions that they're going to ask in the general knowledge portion of the competition. You've had a look. How hard are they?
They're very hard, Eve. And you know what? It really goes to show beauty is also in the brains at these competitions. These questions are hard. They do well also to dispel myths that pageant winners aren't intelligent. This quiz looking at French grammar, world politics, history, geography, sports, cinema. It really is a general knowledge test. Let's see how well...
I'm very bad at general knowledge.
You fair, Eve. First question, what's the distance of a marathon? I'll give you the options. It's all multiple choice. 42 kilometers, 42.195 kilometers, 42.550 kilometers, or 43 kilometers.
I live with someone who runs marathon. He's going to kill me now. I'm going to guess 42.1.
9-5, very good, very good. 1 out of 1 so far. All right, second question.
Let's leave it at that.
Who composed Ode to Joy, the European Union's anthem?
Beethoven.
Yeah, very
well,
good.
If I didn't know that, I'd feel quite embarrassed.
Finally, okay, what does proselytizing mean? A man with several wives, a zealous ardent who tries to convert people to his will, to his or her beliefs, a clairvoyant, or someone who hates innovation?
I have no idea, but I like the sound of the word.
I do too. Honestly, I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up. It actually means a zealous ardent who tries to convert people to his or her beliefs.
Oh, that's my word for the day.
There you go.
Diptyque, say it again.
Proselytizing.
Proselytizing. Totally going to remember that. Diptyque, thanks a lot for that review of the international papers.